Welcome to Online Travel Talks, and today I am absolutely delighted to welcome Terry Farthing, who is the Managing Director of London Jet Charter. Welcome, Terry.
Yeah, hi Julia. Listen, thanks a lot for having me on your vodcasts. I watch them avidly, and you do a great job for the travel trade.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, really appreciate you giving me a call this morning.
Brilliant. Well, I'm loving your background. This is obviously one of your special jets, and this is kind of a layout we can expect in the jet. Maybe on some.
No. This is my office. Yeah.
It's your office. Yeah. Well, that's the best office.
No, I mean, private jets, they do vary quite considerably. From a fairly basic sort of turboprop, but most of them are fairly luxurious, particularly in comparison to most scheduled flights.
Yes, of course.
So yeah, it's this is I think it's a Gulfstream. I guess, yeah.
A Gulfstream, brilliant. So Terry, it's really interesting how you came to set up London Jet Charter. So just tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, if we go right back to the beginning, I left school. I was a press.
Not that far.
Yeah.
Move forward.
It's a good story, Julia.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a press photographer. I got the Bob Blasted Island. I thought I'd be a war correspondent, which led me to joining the Marines, which joined, and I had a great time there. And I came out, and then I worked on an oil rig for 12 years. And I thought, God, what am I going to do now? I'll have to take life seriously when my wife had a baby. So I started a letting business. I moved down to England, had a letting business, which I built up for 20 years at Stansted Airport. And while I was there looking out the window, as you tend to do sometimes when you work for yourselves, I noticed that, there was all these planes flying about. I found it all quite exciting. So we used to get all the air crew and the pilots, find them accommodation. So I was right at the heart of the airport. And I did, just as a hobby, a couple of charters. And they went quite well. And I thought, I tell you what, I think I'll sell my business and I'll just concentrate on what I'm really passionate about.
Brilliant.
And that's how I've ended up, doing this. I'm still at Stansted Airport, although we do flights, to and from anywhere. But it is exciting. You find most people who work in aviation find it exciting. We don't make a great deal of money, but we
Okay, so so tell us a bit more about what you do, because it is very interesting. It's quite a niche, but it's an important niche that not everybody realizes they can tap into. So do you want to explain a little bit about clients you work for? And
it's not necessarily out of everybody's reach, flying private. I mean, it can be expensive. It's normally expensive, but there are empty legs, etc. But there's three sorts of people generally fly privately. There's the business people. Now they are sort of time is money. They want to turn up at the airport, get straight on their plane, fly off to where they're going. Maybe have a meeting, go somewhere else, have another meeting. If they're running late, they work on the plane and they come back. And it works out, really, it can save companies quite a lot of money from, they don't have to go stay overnight, then go to another place, etc. So they don't need all the bells and whistles normally. And then you have the sort of significant anniversaries and people who are going on a once in a lifetime holiday, or your ultra high net worth individuals who generally tend to own their own planes, which is always annoying for me. But, and they all they would like to sit in a beautiful private terminal, watch the plane getting ready, have some drinks, maybe some Danish pastries, waiting for their friends to come and then get on the plane. There's none of this queuing. What happens is I would have pre-cleared people before the flight. So we get all their details, we check sanctions lists, and we get everything for the operator. So as when they turn up, all they need to do is show their passport and walk onto the plane if that's what they wish. Or they can take some time and meet their friends, watch the plane getting ready, and that's nice. And then you have the other group of people, of people, and they are scared, and they seem to think as soon as they touch anything, they're going to drop dead with COVID. So they are increasing, but what happens is it's a way of travelling safely, because all these aircraft are sanitised between people, passengers, and you don't need to have an attendant on the flight. You can sit there, you can take your dog on the plane off to holiday, and off you go. So they're the three basic types of people.
So does the dog need a passport? Just a random question.
Right. If you're traveling with pets, and it's
Yeah.
quite common. I mean, to give you an example, we had two gentlemen who flew off to America the other day from Luton. The reason they flew privately in their own, big private Gulfstream was because they had two dogs, two assistance dogs, and they didn't want to put them in the hold. So the dogs do need a dog passport, and there's certain airports around the country and various countries that can process them. But basically, you turn up, it's all checked. You walk on with your dog, you can sit in the seat, looking out the window, enjoy it, and you get off, and you're on your way. Absolutely painless, and it's a great way to fly. Lots and lots of people take their pets with them inside the private jet.
Right, it's like first class dog seat. It's just seems so funny. I'd love to see a photo.
My dog doesn't travel by private jet.
Oh dear. Well, what a way to go. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. And so I understand you mentioned empty legs earlier. Can you just sort of explain what you mean by an empty leg?
Yeah, what an empty leg is, supposing, you want to fly from London to Paris, you're going to fly over there. The aircraft has to come back. So it will come back empty if it can't find anybody. So, generally they would have priced in, either going over there, picking someone up, going somewhere else. But, so an empty leg, if it has to come back, you can find them for a fraction of the price for, a normal aircraft charter. They're not as reliable in as much as if the first flight doesn't take place, and you can't travel because the aircraft isn't there, you would get your money back, but, they would give you the option, to fly another way. But if you're fairly flexible, for instance, we have people contact us and they say, well, I'd like to go to Ibiza, the first week of April. Can you look out for an empty leg? Yes, we can do that. We put a monitor there, we put an alert. And another thing, we had a chap the other day. He'd flown with us a couple of times in helicopters. He absolutely loved it. Him and his family. It was his wife's birthday, and he was determined that he wanted to take her on a private jet. So we found, because he's a very busy chap, we found an empty leg between Northolt, which is in London, up to Manchester. It's only 32 minutes, but he had the most amazing private aircraft. He had loads of pictures, before he got in with his family, loads of pictures in there. They even had time for champagne and catering as they were flying on their trip. And I'm sure he will come back for some more flights.
Wow.
So, if you're flexible, that's the main thing, Julia. If you're flexible and you've got a particular route you want to fly, I'm sure that we can find you something that would suit your budget.
Excellent. And so you mentioned, so it's not just jets, you can also hire helicopters through you as well, or?
Yeah, when restrictions came in for COVID and people weren't tending to go abroad, there wasn't much flying. So I was looking around for other things, obviously associated with it. And, although there was lots of events closed, the UK for helicopters, you can still fly around. And it's built up from there really for events, so things like Glastonbury, the Isle of Wight Festival, or if you just want to, we have lots of people that go and do, I call it fly and dine. So, since it's coming up maybe to one of your significant anniversaries, your husband may decide to whisk you off from your garden if it's big enough. You need an area of 30 square metres, off for a meal, a sightseeing trip around London where you live. You could do a sightseeing trip around London, around the London Eye, Houses of Parliament, along the Thames, etc. Land somewhere nice in the country, have a meal and fly back.
Oh, you've sold it to me already.
Well, I hope so. Yeah. The only thing with helicopters is they are prone to bad weather sometimes. But should someone book something like that, if the helicopter can't go, and I would know first thing in the morning, once again you get your money fully refunded. So that's quite good.
Great. So really, as the sort of luxury travel agents or any travel agent that is talking to customers with special anniversaries or birthdays or anything special, or just really wanting to have that special luxury because perhaps they've been saving in lockdown and can't afford it, do they contact you and they sort of say the requirements and you take it from there? Is that how it works? I mean, what's the best way?
We deal with lots of agents, I mean, as you know, I put something onto your site so as people go and get an insight into how to go about booking something. They contact me. I'm a great believer in karma, and I try to help everybody, whether they book us or not. And, you know, I would explain to them, you know, the various options that would be available, you know, the price levels. And let's say that, you know, it's for a business trip. You know, it may be 4 people flying off to, I don't know, Nice or something. And, you know, I would send you some options. Now, generally people want to go for the cheaper option, but, you know, I would say, well, that particular aircraft, you know, that's a Mustang and it has an emergency toilet, you know, like a potty. So you maybe aren't going to fly with 2 of your best clients over, you know, knowing that. So so I would steer you towards something else. But if it was a family and they're just going over for a quick trip, you know, then no problem at all. So I try to turn people into experts, and I deal with lots of PAs, EAs and travel agents that are normally, you know, booking scheduled flights, and try to, when they go back, you know, they know what they're talking about. They can recommend the right thing for their client and get it right first time and every time.
Right. Brilliant. Okay. So I know that we've got you in our directory listing on OTT, so you're quite easy to look up through the directory. And anything else to add that perhaps you've missed saying there, Terry?
Well, my little tagline really is London Jet Charter for those who fly smarter.
Okay.
But, you know, you have to promote yourself in these sites. But it is getting busier, you know, within private aviation, because I think the more you read and you see things in the newspapers, for instance, they were telling people at Stansted the other day to turn up the day before to check in their baggage. You know, one of the ladies that works for me, you know, she was a 3.5 hour delay. That was before Easter.
Gosh.
So, you know, you don't tend to have these problems with private charters. You know, you turn up, I would have all the relevant information. I'd have done the checks. You turn up, you walk through, you get on your aircraft, and you're off.
And so
you land at your destination, ready for work or pleasure or whatever.
Or whatever it might be. Brilliant. So how much would you need to save? I mean, what would be, so if you did a one way, an empty, you got an empty leg. So looking at minimum price, and so I'm going to go off to Cannes.
Right.
In France.
Say, go by
roughly.
Done recently. I mean, we put a flight for 7 people up to Ibiza from London, which was, I think it was 4,200 the other day, which was an empty leg.
For 7 people?
For 7 people.
That's amazing.
Yeah, normally it would be, I don't know, to get there, 12,000, something like that. You know, we, the people that went to America, that was an empty leg. That cost them $44,000, and considering they're flying in an aircraft with 14 seats, you know, it would have taken 14 seats, you know, 30-odd thousand. That isn't bad compared to, you know, first class travel. So we've just done one this morning, which we've just taken a deposit on, and I gave the people 3 options, and that was from London City Airport to Le Bourget, which is Paris, and the prices there range from 10,500 to 13,500, you know, and that was a booked flight. City Airport is slightly more expensive to leave from. But, you know, if for instance, people tend to say, well, I want to go from London to X. Well, I say, well, whereabouts in London, you know, because you've got Stansted,
different places,
Biggin Hill, Farnborough, and, you know, so it depends where they live. My job is to try to add value to any person's trip. So if you want to fly from, say, here in Stansted, you want to go somewhere for a couple of days, come back, you know, I could arrange to have your car parked, left at the terminal, you know, here, hassle-free.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, it's really interesting, and it's good, you know, to explore all the different options of travel and put them forward to your customer, because you just never know. You know, sometimes we can assume people might not be able to afford it when actually maybe they would consider it. And if there's, you know, a craft that can take the amount of people, what's going on? It's not an emergency there, is it? Emergency landing? Okay, well, Terry.
We do that every time we get a booking. No, that's the fire thing. That's testing the fire thing.
You sure it's a test?
Yeah.
So I'm worried. So therefore, you know, we can't assume that you know, what people's budgets are, and it's always good to give options, and it's good to get to know you, really. So I encourage everyone to take a look at the directory, find the contact details for Terry, and get in touch with anyone wanting to have luxury flights.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I hope all of the people that see this are now going to put a private flight on their bucket list, and I will try my hardest to help them.
Perfect.
And I really appreciate you, allowing me to showcase what we do here. And it's very much appreciated, and I wish you well. You do a great job at OTT. I share an office with someone who, one of the offices here, who won one of your awards, and she speaks very highly of your company and the training you give your staff. So thank you
so much. Thank you so much, Terry. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today, and thank you for joining Online Travel Talks.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Have a great day.
And you too.